Let me tell you about this book, which is A Quaker Conscientious Objector, Wilfrid Littleboy's Prison Letters 1917 to 1919. Now, these are a unique family archive, and I knew nothing about them. Handheld Press have already published a collection of conscientious objectors' letters from the First World War. When I was putting that collection together, I sent the introduction, which I wrote, to a Birmingham University historian called Rebecca Wynter to peer review it for me, to give me proper professional advice about whether I was wrong, right, what needed changing. As a result of that, Rebecca and her colleague Ben Pink Dandelion, who is a Quaker historian, sent me this collection of letters about Wilfrid Littleboy. Well, they're by Wilfrid Littleboy. And I agreed we needed to publish them because they're really important. Now, Wilfrid Littleboy is completely unknown outside his own family and outside the Quaker world. Within Quaker world in Britain, he is a significant British 20th century Quaker who did a great deal to shape how Quakerism changed from the First World War through beyond the Second World War and after. He was much loved. His letters are 2 years of correspondence between him, from him to his parents when he was in prison for conscientious objection to military service in Wormwood Scrubs and at Dartmoor, so 2 separate British prisons. And they are just marvellous letters. They're uplifting, they're gentle, they're very, very committed. They're the letters of a man who thinks he's in exactly the right place at the right time and doing the best thing he can do for himself and for his country and for his beliefs. And they're just terrific. So we are publishing these, and following this short introduction you will see 2 clips, one by Rebecca and one by Ben Pink Dandelion, talking about a couple of the letters and reading extracts from them. So please enjoy.
What this evocative collection of letters offer is a means of walking alongside Wilfrid and experiencing being a CO as he did. And we can follow him right from arrest to his final release in 1919. So in this particular letter to his mother and father, dated Budbrook Barracks, 2nd of January 1917, we can observe his very first experiences of military discipline and the rather convoluted pathway of a CO into prison. At 9:30 this morning, we were all lined up and marched to the commanding officer with various military delinquents. There seemed to be a swarm of grey-haired, solid-looking, non-commissioned officers hanging around with little to do, saluting whenever an officer comes along. After a while, they call out, "Private Littleboy!" and with, "Right wheel, quick march, halt!" etc., etc., you come before the officer in charge. The sergeant reports that you are a CO. The officer is new to the job, so the sergeant says he must send me across to be clothed after warning me of the various consequences of refusing, which he proceeds to do, stammering all the while. I thank him for his warning and then march around the place in the charge of a non-commissioned officer who calls along another to witness the refusal to obey orders. A pile of clothes is produced, and I am told to consider it my kit and put it on, which I say, "I'm sorry, I cannot do." My answer is taken down in writing, and it's only a matter of form, you know. And here again, the whole thing is stereotyped. So now I have committed my military offence and shall in due course be formally committed to await court-martial, which may not probably take place for a week or 10 days.
One of the great things for me about Wilfrid Littleboy's letters are the continual optimism and good spirit with which he writes. He was moved from Wormwood Scrubs to Dorchester in April 1917. He calls Wormwood Scrubs a dismal spot. The Scrubs housed about 1,400 prisoners. Dorchester just had 70, 60 of whom were conscientious objectors. And he said obviously you can feel the atmosphere is very different. He talks about looking out from his cell window. The neighbouring chimney pots look over a wall, a pinnacled church 100 yards away. The shouts from a school playground adjoining all tell of life outside. The prison is on a hill, and from my first cell on the 3rd floor I saw the governor's garden with the glory of fruit blossom. Further afield, some beech, elm and chestnut trees in all stages of spring green. And a mile or rather off, a hillside white with spring daisies, golden with buttercups, crowded with footballers on Sunday afternoons. So obviously a much calmer setting, a much more pleasant environment for him in some ways, though he then also will talk about the ways of trying to get a little extra food, or just trying to cope with the long periods of isolation. But what shines through most for me is his really deep Quaker faith and the way that this sustains him. He talks later on about trying to rid himself of the idea of an omnipotent God, a God that might intervene on one side or other in the war. Earlier though, here in his first months of being at Dorchester, he's talking about the depth of meeting for worship. They're held every week on Monday mornings for half an hour, some 40 or 50 attending, of whom not more than 12 or 15 are actual members. But the exceptional and general character is high. Over 20 different fellows have taken part vocally, which speaks of the real life of the meeting. Speaking personally, I found a peculiar joy on Sundays. One is so used to Sunday being a change from weekdays, but still of itself a somewhat strenuous day. That Sunday is a rest day, pure and simple, has a special joy of its own. One folds up one's mail bags on Saturday night to remain out of the way till Monday, and settles down to reading and quiet for a number of hours, entirely free. I'm thankful to say that the uncertainty of the future is in no sense a worry to me. I feel perfect confidence in the thought that as soon as God has more service for us outside, just so soon will the doors be opened for us. In the meantime, I know He will allow no time, be it weeks, months or years, to be wasted. I grow more and more confident of the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, and of the vast possibilities open to us were we simple and faithful enough to enter into them. My general feeling, I'm thankful to say, is one of almost unbroken joy, peace and tranquility. And it's that simple and straightforward and certain faith that will sustain Wilfrid through these prison years, and then serves him so well in all his service to the Religious Society of Friends in Britain in the following decades.